Ich will lieben und mich lieben, dass ich...
Hey everyone, so welcome to episode 3 of exPLAINed. Today we are going to talk about Rumschpringa. I'm Krista.
I'm Miranda.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Caitlin.
So Rumschpringa literally means running around in Pennsylvania Dutch. This is the time we get as teenagers to experience the world and decide if we want to be Mennonite or if we're not gonna become Mennonites.
And typically it's also a time where people date and find partners,
Yes.
etc.
And that begins when you turn 16.
So Rumspringa, it kind of depends on your parents, I guess, how wild you get. There's, I suppose you could say, a spectrum. One end you have the really plain teenagers, and then on the other hand you have the extremely wild ones that, you know, had drink and party and do all kinds of crazy
Have
stuff.
cars, have phones.
Licenses. Well, obviously they have licenses if they drive cars.
Not
Not always true. So yeah, the plain Rumspringa typically is more of a time that's used to date and find a partner. For the girls, when they turn 16, they are, I think typically the oldest girl in the family is given what's called a parlor, which is kind of like her own room that she sets up with like a couch or a love seat and some decorations or whatever. And she takes her boyfriend in there on their dates. Not sure what happens in there because I never had one. But,
Me either, but I'm pretty sure that it does not include bundling like the Amish practice,
yeah,
because
no,
that is frowned upon. We definitely don't do that.
I think it was given to kind of replace how I guess English people would just take their boyfriend or girlfriend to their bedroom or whatever to hang out, and that
Yeah.
was absolutely not allowed for Mennonites. So I guess they had a parlor instead because it was like typically in the main section of the house, right? So like you could hear stuff going on in there.
Yeah, so, you know, you couldn't do anything naughty or you'd get caught.
Yeah. So I assume they just had conversations and like got to know each other or something.
They might have held hands. I don't know. Melissa, didn't you go into a parlor once? What did
Yeah.
you do?
Went into
Oh, never mind. You were a bad one.
Yeah.
What
Because I've
happens in the parlor stays in
conversations
the parlor.
about what you want in life and just sit there talk. I don't know.
That seems super awkward.
It
What
was.
another thing they would do is go for a ride in the horse and buggy for dates.
The courting buggy.
Yes. It's on like a little 2-seater buggy made for 2 people. And they drive around, you know, the boy would drive the girl home from, well, this is kind of hard to explain. They're called crowds, I guess, or crowd.
It's like youth group.
Yeah.
Youth group.
That's a large part of Rumspringa too for the plain people is going to these crowds and singings. So basically it would be just a party, if you will, of all the Rumspringa age people in that community. They'd get together at somebody's house, like a pre-planned location, and they would just play games like Rook and Dutch Blitz. And they'd come there as couples, or like if you were single or whatever, you could ask somebody out for a date to this crowd, and then you could take them home in your courting buggy afterwards. If you're a guy, that was kind of like your, I guess, start of Rumspringa was to get a courting buggy, and like you'd get a really fancy horse and fancy harness. Some of them would put like radios and stuff in their buggies.
I do remember riding around with Lisa, that's my older sister, and her friends, and we had this boom box in the back of the buggy. I think I might have been like 12 or 13. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. We'd ride around, listen to the radio. I don't remember where we were going, but it was really cool.
And then, like sometimes if you wanted to go do something after the crowd or whatever, you'd all pile in the courting buggy together. There'd be like 8 people on the little 2-seater,
Everybody hanging off of it.
back and stuff.
Trying to, when you hit the gravel road, when the horse is going really fast, it like
slink-
slides sideways.
Yeah.
And at these youth gatherings, they'd mainly be doing singing. They'd go for walks together, play games, that kind of thing. And then you kind of had the in-between people, I guess, that the girls typically still wore dresses, but sometimes they'd go see a movie or something like that.
And like the dresses would be a little fancier, I think. Like they were typically like a lighter colored material, and they were maybe shorter, and they had some ruffles.
Shorter, sleeveless, not sleeveless, but short sleeves.
Yes. They typically didn't have aprons.
Yeah, you didn't do an apron. You had a zipper instead of buttons.
And they would wear their cop, like just a little cop on the back of their head instead of the full
With
head.
no,
Yeah. I did that. I had the short dresses and the little tiny cop.
I did for a while, but I didn't
Covering.
with them very long because I was one of the wild ones. I was like
yeah.
all out.
And then you have like the wilder teenagers who go and they'll get cars. They'll dress completely not plain, I guess, fancy.
I remember sneaking out of the house with pants on underneath my dress
Yes.
with the legs rolled up. As soon as I got in the car, I'd take my dress off and roll my pants legs down.
I did
Because
that.
at that time, my parents did not approve of us wearing pants. I think I was about 16 at the time. They didn't want us to start wearing pants till we were like 17, 18, give it a little bit of time. But of course, I was kind of wild and I just rushed into things. So I'd sneak out of the house with pants and tank tops on. Yeah.
Sneaky. I was just snuck them out of the house and changed somewhere else.
Sometimes I'd change them in the car. Like if I had something that I couldn't really, I got pretty skilled at changing clothes in the back seat.
I went over to Heather's house and changed there.
And like a big thing for my age group anyway, what we did is somebody always had a house where typically there was like a TV and a pool table and stuff set up, and we'd go over there. And like houses didn't have electricity, so we set our TV up from an inverter from the car power, and we'd run our TV off of the car battery.
I remember doing that in Dean's old shack, I think it was.
Yeah.
We did that at our parlor a couple
Old
times.
party shack
Park
had
the car outside the window and run the converter box in. And,
Yeah.
every once in a while somebody have to go out and start the car so the battery wouldn't die.
yep.
Good times.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel like mine was completely different because
Yeah, 'cause you were the baby.
I know
Um,
I only snuck out of the house like twice, I think.
You had a lot more freedom than we did. By that time, I think
Mom and Dad were
I had
tired.
already left the
They
church.
gave up. They gave up.
Yeah, they'd given up. And I don't think they belong to the church anymore.
No,
But
they
then-
didn't.
Yeah.
The only reason I had to wear dresses still like during the day, I think it was before I turned like 17. It was because grandma and grandpa were still here.
Oh, yeah.
And
Didn't want them to be wearing pants.
yeah. But
We all like wore our dresses and stuff for a long time after when Mom and Dad really left, because Grandma and Grandpa, like we'd go over to their house, we'd always put on dresses just kind of out of respect, because like they definitely didn't approve of us wearing pants or.
Yeah, and for a long time, if we went to like a funeral or something like that, we'd still wear our plain dresses and head coverings just because it seemed respectful to do that.
That was typical for the girls whenever they turned 16, was to get their hair cut for the first time, because as Mennonites, we don't cut our hair. My first one was at a party, and we probably weren't very sober. And the person, like, she cut my hair like all the way up to my ears. Do you remember that, Miranda?
I don't remember that.
It
Well,
was-
vaguely. I do remember something about that.
that was-
I know what I did was dye my hair black. I think I didn't do that until I was 18 because I figured it would cause a fuss living at home with hair color.
I think
What?
the most rebellious thing I did at 16 was getting my ears pierced.
Well, I couldn't get my ears pierced at 16 because Daddy wouldn't allow it, but I did get my belly button pierced as soon as possible. I'm not very proud of my Rumspringa because I did a lot of bad things. You know, there was a lot of binge drinking and partying involved, but thankfully I survived and learned from it.
Yeah. Another typical thing when we didn't have a house to go to, we had like field parties were pretty common where all the youngsters would gather at just random field in the neighborhood and we'd have a bonfire. Typically there would be like a keg and
we had a pond that we'd go to a lot. There's a little cabin there and we'd just go camping.
we had someone kayaking on that pond.
Yeah. I had a lot of parties at that pond.
There was one bonfire where we cut down a whole tree and put it in the fire.
Oh, I don't know if you guys were old enough. I don't think you were, but Mom and Dad went on a trip somewhere, so we had a party at their house.
Yeah.
I remember that still.
I was staying with
We
someone
almost burned the house down.
I wasn't old
There
enough.
was a hole in the screen door.
Some of the people we invited got in a fight.
I do remember
Yeah.
coming home and seeing holes in Mom's recliner.
Because one of Kristen's buddies fell asleep in the chair smoking a cigarette.
I don't remember how we explained all that to Mom and Dad. I
Yeah.
don't remember being punished for it, but I'm pretty sure we were.
Had to tell the truth, I think.
Yeah. We had a party. We almost burnt your house down. Sorry.
We had people over.
Yeah. They got a little crazy.
No wonder Mom's right here. And it's pretty typical too during Rumspringa where you will go and visit other communities in different states. I think this was initially designed so that you could meet, you know, other people.
Who you weren't related to?
Yeah. But we would go and sometimes they'd have what they called an open crowd to where they would invite all the Rumspringa age from every community, like from Pennsylvania, Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, Ohio. They were literally invited from every state where there was a community and there'd be like hundreds of people there. And it was the same.
I had some beach trips like that, but I don't think I ever did the open crowd.
I did one open crowd.
Outer Banks with Tina.
Do what?
Cousins. Remember Outer Banks with some of our cousins and
Yes.
some of the people from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Yep.
for the Wilder Jungie, it was pretty typical to go on trips to different places. So, like one person with a driver's license would typically rent like a large van and we'd fill it up with people and go to like the beach or wherever. I had a wild experience in North Carolina. Of course, I was younger than you guys, so we didn't go on the same trips. But with my friend group, we had went somewhere to eat, like off the island, like on the mainland, called Dirty Dick's. It was a good place. So we went to eat there, and on the way back, like I absolutely had to go to the bathroom. Like there was no waiting, so like they pulled over the side of the road, and I like ran into the bushes, and they were all cactuses, like every single one of them.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Wasn't this in Florida?
No, it was North Carolina. But when I
Oh.
came back out, I had cactus spines like from like my waist down everywhere. It was so bad. That was the worst trip.
One thing people ask a lot is, when did you decide to leave? And the answer to that is a little complicated because I don't recall a specific moment where I was like, I'm not going to be a Mennonite. You know, it just kind of happened gradually.
Like you were probably closer to possibly going back to being a Mennonite.
Yeah, I even tried a more liberal Mennonite church, but it just never felt right. I don't belong in a Mennonite community anymore. I'm too old in it.
I pretty much knew it from the time I started Rumspringa. Before that, we just didn't fit in.
It was so hard for me because it was so ingrained in us that being Mennonite was the only way to be. That's the only way you could be a good person, that it took some time to learn that I can be a good person and not be a Mennonite, you know?
I don't think I ever really consciously made that decision. Like it was just over time, as you got farther and further away from being a Mennonite, it was like you just don't really go back. I don't know. And I don't recall a moment either that was like, I'm just not going to be a Mennonite anymore.
I think I've known like all like growing up, have always known. Like you said, there was never like a certain time where I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this.
Now there are several, like our cousins, for example, some of our cousins, they did the wild Rumspringa where they had cars and driver's licenses and such, and they ultimately went back to being a full Mennonite. So that does happen. It's not always like if you do a wild Rumspringa that you never come back, but
there are some people that I partied pretty hard with that are now Mennonites.
Yeah.
I'm not them anymore, but it was more like we just kind of grew apart.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to mention about the driver's license, a lot of times the boys would get driver's licenses, but the girls would not. And I don't know what that was about. Was it just more frowned upon for girls to have their driver's licenses?
I think it was more like I don't know how to describe it, but it was more like the girls didn't really even want to, maybe a confidence thing, like maybe they didn't feel like they could, because
that's true.
I don't know. It's like they weren't.
And they always
the girls
drop around.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like part of it was a lot of the girls helped out around the house too, and the boys got jobs outside actually making money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the thing of not being able to afford a car.
And it might have been more of a necessity for the boys because they had to get outside jobs.
And on that note, like none of us got ours before we turned 18 because our parents wouldn't like sign for us to get them at 15 and 16 like most English people do.
Yeah, so we had to wait.
Brendan.
Except for Brendan, yeah. Spoiled. Kayla, I thought she did for you too.
Nope.
Oh man, are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. She was responsible enough for a driver's license.
Uh-oh.
Never went like not even once to a singing or a crowd.
No, they didn't have them really anymore.
Oh, that's
By
sad.
the time. Yeah. Because I think it was more like the really plain ones that would go, but they'd be in like Maryland or Pennsylvania. We didn't do them around like
our community was a lot smaller too, so there weren't as many young people to go as in like other communities like Pennsylvania, Maryland.
Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for like the plainer ones in our community sometimes because there was like 5 of them that do stuff like with each other, and it was just every time they tried to have a crowd or like a singing or something with just the people around here, there would be like 10 people show up.
Yeah, because the wild ones are out partying instead of having get-togethers like we're supposed to.
The singings were pretty cool, so it was similar to like how a crowd, they would invite all the Rumspringa age people and they'd just kind of gather and they'd have like drinks and snacks and stuff, and they'd just sing, like they'd spend the whole night just singing. It was pretty awesome.
Non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah, non-alcoholic, of course.
Sometimes they would sing like the slow church hymns, or they would sing out of other songbooks similar to what you'd see in like Baptist churches, I think.
And there was like even the plainest of the plain teenagers aren't drama free, because there was a lot that they'd be like, oh, I want to sing this song, because they were the only ones that knew it, and like no one else would know that song, so they'd get to like sing by themselves, and it was like a big thing, and everybody would be upset at them because they're like, oh, they're doing it on
They're
purpose.
showing off.
Yeah.
Wolf Moody.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that word. If your horse harness just got too fancy, you're a half moody.
Yeah, but unless like you were Rumspringa during Rumspringa.
I'm pretty sure they complained about Irvin Jr.'s what was it called? Set on his horse.
Yeah, but he was already baptized then.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't like the dole leather; it was the.
No, it's because he had the blue fuzzy thing underneath.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forget about that.
Didn't it have to be like red or black for it to be okay?
Yeah.
Why was red okay?
Red
but
okay,
blue
was
wasn't?
not.
Mennonite logic. Tell me how you learned how to dress like not a Mennonite.
Oh,
Wild outfit.
Oh.
It was kind of hit or miss. Sometimes I pulled off a great outfit, and other times it was not so great.
My oldest brother, I will not mention his name because he was trying to help me, but like he said, I look like a 10-cent hooker once. But I was going to a party. I don't remember what I was wearing, but like
That's probably my fault because you kind of copied my style of dressing, I think.
and it was like the early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, so it was all like low-rise jeans and
Yes.
tops and the
Bell bottom, like the big flare leg jeans.
You know, I see people wearing these outfits in fashion magazines and they look great. Nobody called them a slut or told them they looked like a whore. So why couldn't I pull it off?
But like we didn't know how to do makeup or anything, so like
I had to teach myself how to do makeup.
we'd have like some wild eyeshadow going on and stuff. Remember our goth phase that we went through?
Yes, I trapped pants. Remember that one party we had where we went back to the schoolhouse and broke into the school?
So that was actually pretty common a thing that we did, like for fun or whatever. When we were out in the, we'd just go like blasting through the creeks and woods and stuff at night, and then we'd go like break into the schoolhouse, which it was like not really breaking in because like we didn't hurt anything.
We knew where the key was hidden.
Yeah.
We rode our horses in there. That's like the loudest thing we did.
You rode it inside the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a common thing too, was to go to the schoolhouse and have baseball games or soccer games or something in the afternoon for young people.
Yeah, and that was approved for playing and non-playing alike. Play.
That's the one thing that did that they kind of mixed together, right?
Yeah. And there were some states where like really hardcore about their baseball, and they'd have like baseball pants and everything.
Oh yeah.
And like we always made fun of them, like Missouri.
Yeah, they are hardcore about their baseball.
Ohio, I think the Ohio Yogi were really bad about their baseball. But
Most of the boys though, and the girls just sit there watching them.
yeah, like you couldn't play in the big games because if you were a girl, you had to sit and watch. I was like, I want to play.
The cheerleader.
Yeah, the plainest cheerleader ever.
Maybe they hiked their skirts up a little bit higher than normal.
Probably a little ankle.
And I'm pretty sure my face shows exactly like how I was feeling inside because I was not happy looking in those pictures. It was so hot. We just sat there and sat there and sat there. Like they don't even like stand up and cheer or get loud or anything. They just sit.
It sounds like torture.
Like delicate flowers.
I never went to Ohio and Missouri that much. I mainly went to Pennsylvania.
Same.
I think there was a few times that I went to Ohio, but it was for like a party.
I can't believe we used to get in the car, us girls alone, like and drive to Pennsylvania without a GPS. We used
so like how did you
Google Maps.
this?
The road map.
Printed out MapQuest directions.
Tristan went with us a lot of times and helped us find our way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, MapQuest. We used to do that too.
Help you guys get speeding tickets.
Oh yeah.
Tristan did.
Don't let Tristan drive a Mustang through Virginia.
He was going very, very fast in like Virginia or West Virginia one. And
one time we were going really fast on 210. I won't say how fast, but we were racing another Mustang and Tristan was driving. And it was like way too fast.
If you haven't done 140 on a back road in Mustang, are you really in Rumschpringa?
150 on the Parkway in an Eclipse. Does that count?
Yeah, but that was on the Parkway.
The youngin with the cars, we go cruising Main Street.
Oh
Saturday, Friday night, Saturday night.
I'm pretty sure that was like an everybody thing.
Yeah, that was not just a Mennonite thing. That was like a
but you know. That's
but we were known around town as the Amish girls in a red Mustang.
Yeah.
From Main Street.
Two of the drivers got a criminal trespassing ticket for pulling to the Firestone parking lot to chat for like 5 minutes.
Didn't you guys go to car shows and everything like all the time?
That used to be
one in Louisville we went to. One time I went to the car show in Louisville and I poured peppermint schnapps into a water bottle and I just walked around there drinking.
But yeah, that was another thing that the wow to me.
Going to the rodeo.
Is to go to like car shows, rodeos, fairs, concerts, whatever else. That was a big thing.
Yeah, we didn't get to go to an actual fair until we were 16.
Yeah. Little did we know what we were missing.
I know, right?
I went to a rodeo with Lisa and I forget who else. But we got bottles of vodka and went to the bathroom to take drinks. And I don't remember a whole lot from that night. Because when we went back to the hotel room, we stopped to pick up more. And yeah, I woke up on the bathroom floor. Not one of my finer moments.
I think that's one thing about growing up Mennonites. You start drinking like really early on.
I can't imagine letting my kids do at 16 what we were allowed to do.
Okay, so like I keep thinking about that sometimes because I'm like, Haley and Leighton are the age now that we were when we started like, doing our.
Can you imagine them going out and drinking like a pint of hard whiskey?
No.
Like
We were crazy. We're dumb.
The reasoning for not allowing anything until we were 16 is if we do things before then, we're going to get tired of them and, have nothing to do once we're 16 in an actual Rumspringa. But I tend to disagree with that because I think that we were kind of sheltered and then we just suddenly turned loose. We have no restraint. We have no way of saying, okay, this is bad. I probably shouldn't be doing this because we have no experience with anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That was what was highlighted for me when I enlisted. I know I was 18 by that time, but still I sheltered up till that point. So I've made a lot of mistakes because of how sheltered I was.
It's so easy to do. Like, I mean, I was similar. Not obviously, I didn't enlist, but just like going out into a workplace and stuff, and like you meet all these different people, and you don't really know how to act actually because you've not really been around anyone that wasn't raised the same as you and that doesn't have the same ideology as you, didn't come from the same place as you. It's I don't know what the word is for it, but it's
like, almost a culture shock.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's just hard to make good choices at that age when there's so much. You're kind of overwhelmed. You're learning how to dress differently, how to act differently, how to talk differently, pretty much everything. Yeah. And the goal is to get you to come back. They want you to see, oh, the world's not as great as what you were told it was. And they want you to see that the Mennonite way is the better way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like trying to learn how to date and stuff as not a Mennonite, because as a Mennonite, like you didn't have guys texting you and telling you all kinds of stuff, like whatever. It didn't happen. Like, you knew everyone was.
Write letters.
Do what?
They'd write letters. No.
Yeah. Right. The only guy I have ever dated, I met when I was 16 at a party. All we ever did was get drunk together. Never went on an actual date. I ended up pregnant, so I had to get married. And yeah, you all know how that ended.
I didn't even really date anyone until after basic training, once I got to Fort Hood, honestly.
You don't count your one from Pennsylvania, the one Mennonite?
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Let's hope he doesn't watch this video.
It wasn't very memorable, I guess.
No, it's just so long ago. Yeah. I completely forgot about that.
And then like that's another thing with the Mennonites too. Like once you start dating someone, typically like you don't break up.
You end up getting married.
Serious, you're not dating just for fun. You're dating to get married.
Yeah, and it's really uncommon for couples to break up. And like if you're a girl and you plan on being a Mennonite and you've had more than like 2 boyfriends, then you're probably considered kind of a floozy.
You a hoe.
It doesn't matter if you've done anything or not. Like if you as a Mennonite date multiple different guys,
Then you're damaged goods.
Yeah. So like that was another thing too. I never quite understood about how Mennonites do things, because you would be 16 years old and getting in a relationship with this person and like, okay, this is it. Like, this is who I'm supposed to marry. Like, how do you know?
Yeah, because you haven't dated around, you know, you're with this one person and you never learn how guys are supposed to treat you or anything. Because, well, I guess this is a topic for another one, but how women are treated makes it difficult because you're supposed to be submissive. So if you end up with a trash boyfriend, then you don't know how he's supposed to treat you, and you just let him walk all over you.
And then, like, I guess that wasn't really a concern that the Mennonite community had, because if you're a plain person dating another plain person, then presumably you know who they are. Like, you know their family, you know what they're like from the time you're little, I guess. I don't really know.
Right.
And I also feel, I don't know if you guys went through the same thing. I struggle with setting boundaries.
Yes.
Because with people that grew up Mennonite, it's assumed like you know where you stand.
Exactly.
And then you go to people that were raised completely different, and you have to set these boundaries, and it's really, really difficult to learn how to do that.
Exactly.
We've all been to kind of talking about like the dark side of Rumschpringa.
There is definitely a dark side.
Yes. And I think that it's not, you know, for the plain people, for them to meet their partner, like their spouse.
Yeah, pretty much what it's for.
Yeah.
Experience a little bit of the outside, be satisfied and find your
So again, though, like my question is, how are you supposed to know if you want to marry somebody based on how well they play rook or how well they sing? Like, how are you supposed to find
those are very important points.
Qualities of a Mennonite.
I mean, I guess if he's better at Dutch splits or whatever, I don't know.
Well, I also feel like
a
it's
rook player will be able to manage your finances very well and provide for you, maybe.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. I don't know about Dutch splits. They're just very fast, I guess.
It's these hands.
I feel like for a lot of the plain kids, the parents had a lot of influence on who they chose to date and who they
100%.
wouldn't.
But no, we did not have arranged marriages.
No, it wasn't arranged.
I
But
forgot
if you-
people ask me that sometimes.
Yes, I've been asked that
Really
too.
encouraged or discourage certain.
The very plain Mennonites will pretty much control their kids' lives, and if they disapprove of somebody, you're probably not going to marry that person.
So
And your expectation for Rumspringa then is that you're going to be in Rumspringa for like maybe a year or two until you turn 18, and then you're going to join the church.
my ex's parents warned him about me. Basically, they were like, "Oh, you know, you
Mine
don't
did too.
date her, she's wild or whatever." I mean, it turns out they were right, but
Well, my parents asked him why he would even want to hang out with a girl like me.
sad.
I feel like I wouldn't have had a chance. If I would have.
Come before you and destroy your reputation. So yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, we ruined it for you.
No, I think it had more.
Every girl from the Kentucky community kind of had a preceding reputation somewhat because of us. Like in other states, we were known as like
Kentucky girls.
Yeah, like stay away from them because they're trouble kind of thing.
yeah. We partied hard. We wore pants.
Yeah.
We were trouble.
Pennsylvania boyfriend's parents didn't approve of me either.
Okay, but I feel like the Maryland girls were way crazier. I don't know if it was.
But they wore their dress up.
Kept their plain clothes on.
That's true.
Pennsylvania had real problems too, like real problems. They had a lot more problems than girls wearing pants, okay?
Yeah.
But
For
they
sure.
were the ones that were like, okay, like everyone was good with them or whatever. Like,
Because they wore their plain clothes.
but like,
I remember when I moved to Pennsylvania when I turned 18, somebody told me, you know, the parents are going to hate you. Everybody's going to hate you because you wear pants. The girls up there don't wear pants. And sure enough, when I moved up there wearing my pants, all the other girls started wearing pants too. I don't know that the parents really hated me. I don't think they really knew me that well.
You're a bad influence on the entire Pennsylvania community.
Yes, I was. I'm going to say they probably wear dresses again now that I'm not living there.
I think that's a fair assessment.
What went back to?
I think there's more and more that end up never actually joining the Mennonite church. Some of them will go to, I call them more liberal Mennonite churches. I don't really know what the difference is, but they drive cars and stuff.
Hoveminister.
Yeah, I forgot that term.
Fancy Mennonites.
And there's a lot too that kind of just like linger on the outskirts of the Mennonite church forever. Like they're not baptized into the church. Sometimes they keep their cars. Sometimes only one of them, if they get married, only one of them would join the church and the other one will continue to drive or whatever. But they
still live like Mennonites.
Yeah.
Minus, you know, the driving.
Right. But they'll live in houses without kids will go to the Mennonite schools and stuff.
So it's the man that doesn't join.
Yeah.
If it's the woman that does and the man doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like women are more influenced to go back though.
Yeah, and it's harder for guys to find jobs when they don't have a driver's license.
Yeah. And the women are a lot less accepted by their peers if they are the ones that don't join the church. Like if all of their friends joined, then it's going to be hard for them to stay friends with somebody that didn't, especially if that person like wants to keep driving. I mean, it's not impossible. It's
What do you want?
more like a choice that they make, but a lot of times if the woman chooses not to go to the church, then like they'll lose their friends and stuff eventually. Because
I rarely talk to the people that I hung out with as a teenager.
Yeah. What do we want to talk about next week?
Want to talk about school?
I was thinking like either school or the amount of work that we did as children.
Oh, let's talk about work.
You're going to get people in trouble for child labor.
Also a topic Caitlin can speak to.
Excuse me.
Burn.
I was in the tobacco field when I was like 14. Thank you.
Okay, fine.
By 10.
I was at home at 12 watching you, so mom could go out and work.
You're the reason I'm traumatized.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I was talking about.
Matter. Keep it interesting.
Yeah. I figured people want to hear about Rumschpringa more than anything else.
Yeah. Because they watch those shows on TV.
Yeah. Breaking Amish.
Breaking Amish.
Yes. So let the record show Amish Mafia is BS. It does not exist. I think the ideology maybe was came about because there are Mennonites that are rich. Like there are a few millionaire Mennonites, and that's probably where it came from, because in the Mennonite church, if you have more assets than the others in your community, you typically, like, you're the person that people come to for help. Like if they need stuff or whatever, you're the one that's going to help them out, and typically you're going to be like a community leader if you're the one that has the money and stuff. So I think that's where that idea for the Amish Mafia maybe came from, but there's no such thing as an Amish Mafia.
Levi was an actual Amish, though, was he not?
I have no
Not anymore, I'm guessing.
Not anymore, but I think at one, I think Lois said he was. Like,
maybe. The accents are spot on.
right?
Thank you, everyone, for watching the third episode of exPLAINed. We will see you again, hopefully next week, where we will talk about school.